play our music. There it is.
This one's good.
I like this one.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for humoring us, people. I wanted to try out that little banner thing and see if it would work the way I expected it to. And it did. So in the future, even if we're not quite ready yet, we can at least go live with some cool music and give you, jamokes, something to entertain yourself with while you wait for us to be fashionably late. Look at that. We went live on time. When was the last time we ever did that?
This might be a first.
Yeah. And it's funny because getting ready for this stream is probably the most, like, I don't know, like frantic and harebrained I've been in a long time. You guys will find out why in a little bit. But before that, Cooper is becoming a classy man. He's aging like fine wine. Yeah, he's erudite. He reads poetry, and he's going to share with us some poetry.
I'm LARPing as Moldbug now.
And I have Coke in my nose. No, not that kind of Coke. The other kind.
Oh, the not so fun kind.
Yeah.
The mildly fun kind.
Mm-hmm.
You've got like original carbonated cola drink. You've got off-brand Coke.
Yeah, I do. I got HEB Coke. Where is it here?
I see.
Original cola. Shout out HEB. No free advertisements.
Yeah, pay us.
Yeah. Do you know what HEB stands for?
Give me a minute. HEB?
Yeah.
Healthy exoskeleton brain.
Howard Edward Butt.
What a loser.
That's quite literally what it stands for. It was named after the son of the initial owner or something like that. Yeah, HEB. So when I first moved in Texas, there's no Kroger and Safeway and Albertsons, and you just have HEB. HEB is like, then you may have Walmart and Target, and they have their grocery stores and stuff. But as far as chain grocery stores, there's HEB and like the dollar store. So when I first got here, I was like, all right, I don't want to seem like I just moved here, but I just moved here. So if I ask someone do I ask someone where's the nearest Heb or where is the nearest HEB? I don't know what it's supposed to be. And so fortunately, then I heard someone else say it before me and was able to confirm that it is HEB. You call it HEB. This is a very, very Texas thing. It would be probably like in Michigan, you have like Yoopers, and nobody else in the world thinks about Yoopers, but Michiganders think about Yoopers. Texans think about HEB. What's up, Tobias Ruck?
Yoopers? Like the people from the UP?
Uh-huh.
I was going to say, is there like a store called Yoopers that I don't know about?
No, it's when I was in Michigan, that's what people all referred to people from the Upper Peninsula as. They just called them Yoopers.
Yep. Go find yourself a wife up in the UP.
Mm-hmm.
Get yourself a hairy Yooper woman.
Go try to civilize a savage.
That's right.
Go let out your inner grug.
Yeah. They're like a match made in heaven, because see, the Yoopers refer to the Lower Peninsula folk as trolls because they live beneath the bridge, the Mackinac Bridge.
Oh, that's funny.
So you got trolls and then hairy Yooper women have that make a strong stock.
Yeah, we've got we're 2/3 or something to the way of having like a good fantasy novel series.
Yeah,
that's when we really get the
like
bitches.
a romance novel. Yeah.
Bitches love romance novels.
Yeah, they do, and they're not good. They're garbage. They're all garbage.
They're terrible. Oh, they're absolutely terrible. They're like the most wretched thing you've ever encountered. They're basically just porn for women.
That's what it is. It's just smut.
Yeah. So there's like female gooners. Are they called fooners? Kind of like foids.
Phoenix.
Phoenix. Yeah. Oh no, our language is running away without us.
We're just contributing to the degeneration of the English language. For real.
Uh-huh. Yeah. This is very meta. All right, do you want me to leave the music going so you can read your piece of poetry?
Oh. No, I don't. The tempo will mess me up. Gotta turn it off.
Okay.
We gotta get serious. We have been talking about doing like turning the show into like a slam poetry podcast.
We hadn't talked about that publicly.
Well, we have now.
Oh, all right.
So, guys, that's what we're doing.
Cat's
now.
out of the bag.
Yeah. So, before we write our own slam poetry, I'll just start with a banger poem. O world invisible, we view thee. O world intangible, we touch thee. O world unknowable, we know thee. Inapprehensible, we clutch thee. Does the fish soar to find the ocean, the eagle plunge to find the air, that we ask of the stars in motion, if they have rumor of thee there? Not where the wheeling systems darken, and our benumbed conceiving soars, the drift of pinions would we hearken, beats at our own clay-shuttered doors. The angels keep their ancient places, turn but a stone and start a wing. 'Tis your estranged faces that miss the many splendored thing. But, when so sad thou canst not sadder, cry, and upon thy so sore loss, shall shine the traffic of Jacob's ladder, pitched betwixt heaven and Charing Cross. Yea, in the night, my soul, my daughter, cry, clinging to heaven by the hems, and lo, Christ walking on the water, not of Gennesareth, but Thames. That is In No Strange Land by Francis Thompson. My favorite poem.
It's pretty gay.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Cooper.
Anyway.
This has been your daily gay poem with Cooper. Tune in next time to hear another one.
Next week, I'll read a poem from Marx.
Did Marx write poetry?
Mm-hmm.
He must have.
It's dark, dude.
Oh, God. Oh, it must be, yeah. Oh, man, I can't imagine. Well, we'll get into that here in just a second. I've been reading, like, an evolution of Marx, and I'm starting to realize that I actually need to go read Marx because I haven't understood Marx in the way that I should have understood Marx, but I'm really not looking forward to that prospect. So mostly because I don't want to have to reconsider my opinion of tankies. I kind of just want to leave my opinion of them as it is. But, you know, I guess you got to deconstruct things sometimes. You know what I mean? Anyways, just so you guys know, we launched our memberships on the YouTube channel here on our last stream. We've got some cool little emotes that you guys get to use, and you get a cool little King Pilled logo badge next to your name. So if you want to support the show, then you can become a member of this here YouTube channel, and then you can use the cool emojis. We've got a new emoji, and this one here, let me post it.
Comes with a call to action.
It does. So this one here, I just posted it in the chat. So this is a thing that's kind of hard to capture in a little image this small, but it's a fractal. I don't know if you guys have heard of fractals. They're these really cool math things. But
tell me about them.
They're cool. They fractalize. That's the coolest part about them.
A math thing?
Yeah, math thing. Yeah, that's why I'm very fond of them because my name is Math Erickson.
That's right.
So these so this is a fractal. It's a particular kind of fractal. It's a Mandelbrot set. And Mandelbrot sets are really, really, really cool. If you just go look it up, go read about a Mandelbrot set sometime, or go look at a video of one of them. It's kind of watching like panning sort of over a Mandelbrot set is sort of like using, those little hair scratcher things, those tools you get where it has like I don't even know what to call it. It's like these circular tines that go down over your scalp and then they scratch your head and they kind of make everything tingle. And you're kind of like, ooh, when you scratch your head with them. That's how watching a video of a Mandelbrot set makes my brain feel. It kind of like scratches the inside of my brain. Anyway, so you can use the fractal emoji. What are you doing?
My butt cheeks are falling asleep.
Oh.
Too long.
We've been doing the show for too long.
Well, I've been down here for like 4 hours working on stuff.
That's a sign of hypothyroidism. You should get your thyroid in order.
Should I?
Like clean your room, get your thyroid in order.
Should take some E3, some orange juice, salt.
Yep. Those are all good ways to get your thyroid in order. Tobias says there's only one Mandelbrot set, Matt. See, this is the problem with having smart people in the audience is that when I try to pretend that I'm smarter than I actually am,
like you're going to do a whole lot of tonight.
Right. Yeah. And they can call me out and reveal me as a poser.
He's German. Don't listen to him.
Yeah. Don't listen to the German. They've caused enough damage. So, this is the call to action to become a member of the channel. If you'd like, you can subscribe. And if you subscribe $5 a month, then you get access to use all these cool little emotes. So anytime that I mention a fractal, those of you who are members, please comment in there and say, you can comment the fractal emoji and throw it at me because I said it, or emote. I think these Zoomers get real worked up if you call an emote an emoji. Like there's a difference between an emoji and an emote.
I don't get worked up.
Yeah. Okay, good. I've got one of the sane Zoomers here.
As chief Zoomer, I will tell the rest of my generation to chill out.
All right, good. Well, then I'm glad to have you on board here, sir. All right. So if you guys can like the stream and share it with someone and do the subscription thing and become a member, do all those things. Once upon a time we were trying to build this show and get it up to 1,000 subscribers, and we had this running joke about like whether we were going to get the channel terminated or reach 1,000 subscribers first. And then we got to 1,000 subscribers, and then we've just kind of stayed just hovering above 1,000 subscribers. And in watching the analytics, the channel is watched overwhelmingly by subscribers. Non-subscribers don't watch it very much. And I would imagine that this is just a product of the algorithm. It's just a matter of, because everyone who does watch it, they all give me, glowing reviews. They say everything's great. You guys are doing great work. We've even had unexpected sources coming to us and saying, hey, we like the videos you guys have been posting lately. And it makes us very uncomfortable. I guess I'll just leave it at that for right now. But so basically, this seems like the type of show that doesn't lend itself to the algorithm too hard. And we kind of whore ourselves out a little bit to try to appeal to it. But at the end of the day, we'd like to get this show growing again. We'd like to build up some energy around it. We're doing our part by bringing the banger content. We're cranking out bangers. So we need you guys to do your job. Oh, we need a banger emote. That's another one. Banger. We need so to do another banger or to do another emote, to add a banger emote, we need another subscriber. Now they're going to up to a certain level. I don't know which level they release each emote based on the subscribers that you get. So if you guys want a banger emote, then we need one more subscriber.
We'll give you another banger.
And then we'll give you another banger. So if you guys could do us a favor, and if you're enjoying the shows that you're putting out and you want to... Yeah. Remember what I just said about having smart people in the audience? You guys got to knock it off. You're killing my grift here. If you guys are enjoying it, then do us a favor and share it. Give it to someone else you think is going to enjoy it. I think that today's show is going to be, it's either going to be a massive tire fire or it's going to be an absolute banger. I don't really think it's going to be anywhere in between. Right after the shout out Jordan Gibb. Thank you, sir. Right after.
Yeah, share it with people you know. Share it with people. Just please not people from church.
Yeah. Well,
we're gonna have to stop. We'll have to watch our language and be civil.
So I guess we got to just full steam ahead here. After the last show we did, we talked about. We kind of started touching on this theme of accelerationism, and I've been sort of aware of it for a while, but I'm realizing now I had a bit of kind of a stereotyped impression of it, as is just kind of seems to happen with all of these different ideologies. You have like the inner sanctum of the ideology, the people who actually really thought it through and fleshed it out, and then you have the further fringe that's just sort of the hangers on that are kind of watered down and they distilled into different memes. So we've been doing a lot of thinking about generational dynamics and the progression through the culture, the way the culture kind of updates itself as it progresses from one generation to the next. We've talked a lot about the boomer zoomer relationship, the boomer millennial relationship, the Gen X zoomer relationship. We've been kind of touching on all of these, and we've been really highlighting the zoomer psychology and the way that it meshes with the Gen X psychology and how you're going to get this boomer die off, and then this ascendancy of the Gen X generation is now going to ascend into the highest levels of power, without being beholden to the boomer regime that came before them, and the spirit of the boomer regime, which is really the spirit of like managerialism, like at its absolute apotheosis. The millennial generation is kind of like trying to preserve the vestiges of the managerialism as the managerialism is consuming itself. And this process of, like, for example, managerialism consuming itself, this is part of a larger process that we've been kind of getting at. And the way that I've been approaching the show for the last several episodes and talking with people in voice chats and stuff is I kind of have some intuitions, and I feel like I either see where things are going or I'm trying to triangulate exactly where things are going. And so I'm trying to work these ideas out in real time. And it really helps to just sit here and talk about it and get feedback and hear other people. And then some of the guys in the voice chat are some of the smartest dudes I've ever talked to, and they keep throwing these little nuggets at me. Cooper comes along and he just kind of sits there and drools, but these other guys throw these awesome nuggets at me, and then we trade nuggets and we keep building and elaborating on these ideas. And we were doing this last night. It's appropriate that I look down right after saying that and see Cable saying I'm also severely retarded. Our audience is simultaneously full of absolute retards and some of the smartest people on the internet. It's the best thing about it. So there was, I don't think we're going to get in today. I don't think we're going to get into everything that we got into last night, because part of that was there was some ideas that Jason from the 2-Bit podcast he was kind of working out in real time. And he made me have some of the biggest aha moments on this voice chat. I was sitting there like I was laying down on the floor in the dark. I had my hands over my eyes like this, and I was like softly groaning until I had to tell him to stop talking because he was just making bombs go off inside my head, and I needed him to slow down. I don't think we're going to get into all of that now because I want him to elaborate on some of those ideas on his own show, which I think he's going to be doing here over in the near future. So you should go subscribe to the 2-Bit podcast and listen to the stuff that they do over there. And you should also join the King Pill Discord. We've got lots of calls to action for you. There's lots of different things you can do here. You can like our show, you can share it, you can go to the 2-Bit podcast, you can go to the King Pilled Discord at subscribestar.com/kingpilled. We've got lots of things for you to do. There's no excuse for inaction. So for what we're going to talk about today, we're going to kind of start dipping our toes a little bit into this accelerationism. And part of this should be interesting because Cooper is a big skeptic. He and I talked about this a couple different times today, and he's skeptical. He sort of gets, and he sort of seems to buy into some of the stuff that the accelerationists are talking about, but then he doesn't buy into some of the other parts. And I'm still trying to figure it out and understand it myself. And the way that I figure things out and understand them is by talking about them and arguing with people about them and putting them out there and watching.
We were yelling at each other earlier.
We were, yeah. It was actually kind of fun. I was out throwing a ball for a dog, and we're house sitting for a dog, and they have a camera. The people have a camera on their back porch, like a Ring camera or something like that. And I'm sitting here talking with Cooper and getting agitated because we're disagreeing and yelling back and forth at each other. And then I was like, this stupid dog won't just drop his ball so I can throw it. And then I kind of was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't call the people's dogs stupid right in front of them. But the way that I want to kind of dip our toe into accelerationism today is I want to take this angle on the silent majority. Cooper and I were talking about this silent majority yesterday. And
this was
the
my
silent
great
majority,
idea, by the way, that he's hawking.
Yes. Yeah. I'm hawking it and I'm perverting it. So there's Tobias. I'm only an accelerationist when I'm on the German Autobahn. I would love to drive on the Autobahn. I have never driven on the Autobahn, but it seems like it would be a ton of fun. I don't think my wife wants me to, though. That would be my guess. I already kind of drive like I'm on the Autobahn. Like I'm trying to turn every road that I'm in into the Autobahn. So it might not be good. So first I want to talk about this term COOMER or COOMING. What is COOMING? We've introduced you guys to Gooners. We've introduced you guys to Zoomers. We've coined our own term, the Goonics. But then there's a COOMER. What is a COOMER?
We're experts in all things COOMING.
Yeah. So I wanted to share this. This is a introducing the COOMER. I found this when I was Googling COOMERs earlier. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger here. So this is the COOMER. He's growing spores on his craned neck. If a virgin starts to dive into his own virginity, has a grease stain on his neck, still on the virgin spectrum, socks with sandals, teeny peeny, growing constant hairs in places that they shouldn't, preys on women in their 20s and men in their 10s, growing claws, one arm jacked from constant cooming. So then where was the other one? Hold on. There was another COOMER image that I was gonna pull up. Okay, yeah, this one. This is the image that you'll typically see as, how do I get this in one here? Share this tab. This guy here. This is the one that's usually the archetypal COOMER. So it's the description of it, according to it's an internet meme based on an illustration of a scraggly male character who is mocked as an excessive masturbator. More broadly, it's often an ironic insult for an oversexed young man, or more generally, a loser. Urban Dictionary defines it as a COOMER is someone who excessively masturbates for the dopamine rush and the sense of fulfillment. These Brody Alexander, young old boy, says he's catching up right now on 2x speed, and he threw us some fractal emotes. I like seeing that fractal emote. It looks cool. Cooper pointed out that it looks kind of like a guy sitting there meditating, and that was why I picked it out, because really, with a picture that small, it's very hard to actually tell what's happening on it to show what a fractal actually is. So I decided to pick something that kind of stood out and looked cool. Also, I mean, they have eyebrow dandruff. Well, Emmanuel. So the Coomer, as is what happens with these sorts of memes, they get they start off with kind of a particular meaning, and then they get used, they get weaponized, and they get targeted at specific people, and then used as a sort of cudgel, especially in communities of men, because communities of men like to abuse one another. And so this is one of the things you get abused with, is you get called a Coomer. A Coomer is kind of more broadly, it means not someone that's just masturbating all the time, but it's kind of like it's like a spiritual status of being just in the state of having come all the time. You're always in that kind of let down, like dopamine crash, sort of spent state. This is the Coomers. So these are people who have no vitality. That's what's being pointed out at them. They have no they have no virility. Cooper's butt cheeks have no virility.
I don't have much to begin with.
Yeah.
Butt cheeks, that is.
Yeah. You have a lot of virility, though, don't you?
Yeah, I'm very virile.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to read this thing I wrote here earlier on the tweet when I tweeted out about the show. I said, the modern right wing in the West is largely split into two camps. Both camps believe, if only implicitly, that there is a silent majority deep within America, lurking in hibernation, waiting for just the right conditions to rise again and restore the proper spirit of Western man. You got these two camps that there's people talk about like the spirit of the West, and there's this kind of idea that there's like this latent spirit that's under there, and all we have to do is just hack into it. So camp number one, which is more on, the Constitution, the Founding Fathers, and there's updates and there's evolutions on this, like the go back to 1950 is kind of an update on this. So camp number one, which is more on the boomer end of things, believes that the silent majority will eventually rise up and declare that we will not be ruled. And even though it seems like the silent majority simply isn't making its presence known, don't worry, it's really truly out there, and it's just waiting until the very last possible moment when it'll descend as a deus ex machina to save the day, and it'll be fantastic, and we'll all high-five each other as the 1950s is restored.
Can't wait.
This is like the boomer view, that you'll talk to a boomer and talk about like, oh, there's these. I remember talking about like the problem of having these crazy college kids who are making up pronouns and raging at lecturers who show up on their campus, and all these boomers would just be like, oh yeah, whatever, nobody will ever go along with that, because it's like, oh, there's that latent spirit that unites us all. There's that fundamental premise that we all share together of this commitment to free speech and open debate, and so we don't have to like just don't worry about it. Just kind of, those are stupid kids. Just kind of ignore them. And the latent spirit of Western man will rise up and save us at just the right time. That's camp number one. The other camp, which is more on the millennial end of things, believes it's our responsibility to rouse the silent majority, and that we just need to figure out how to stitch together just the right propositions in just the right order to create the ideal transcendent ideology, trademarked, that will crack the code and wake everyone up so we can fight the big evil bad guys through activisming and voting our asses off. This is all cope. These are both a position of cope. They're passive positions, and even the one that's active is passive. Even the millennial activism person is passive. The reason for this is because of this dynamic that I'm coming to understand people like Nick Land, the accelerationist, refer to as capital. So I want to make clear as I'm trying to work through these ideas here that what I'm describing here is my understanding of what they're saying. And I started reading this like yesterday. I've been kind of vaguely aware of this stuff for a while now, and a lot of this overlaps significantly with Moldbug. A lot of this is kind of an evolution on Moldbug's thinking, which is kind of the space that I've been in for a while. So I've been kind of coming to some of these conclusions sort of orthogonally to the actual accelerationists who are actually writing about this. They're using language to describe concepts that I've been trying to think of on my own and didn't realize there was already people who were describing this. So So I'm not like, if you're someone who's like a Nick Land person, we would love to talk to you. We would love to actually be able to pick your brain. And I've put out some feelers to some people to see if maybe they want to come on the show and talk to us about Nick Land. But for this particular purpose, there's like a particular conclusion that I already have this sense that this is the message that I'm wanting to impart, and I need to figure out how to fill this part in. There's a bunch of stuff in the middle here that I can't figure out exactly how it works, and reading them is filling that in for me. So I was listening to first of all, a couple of really good videos. If you want to go kind of retrace my steps and do the same thing that I've been doing, I was listening to a couple of videos by Charlemagne. I don't know if you guys remember Charlemagne. He used to be pretty active around the YouTube streets. I haven't been doing a lot of consuming of content lately, so I haven't been following him. So I don't know if he's still producing content and the algorithm has just shut him down, or if he got kicked off of stuff or whatever. But really good guy. We had him on the show once. I think it's actually probably the most viewed show this channel has ever had. Very, very intelligent guy. And he was kind of a vestige of this older, like 2010 style of YouTube content, which was kind of this mid-form, pre-produced lecture essentially on given topics. And he has some really good ones on Moldbug, on bioleninism, on a bunch of other things. So there's two videos. One of them is, if you look up Techno Capital and Charlemagne, you'll get his video on Nick Land and Techno Capital, and then you want to watch the video just before that one where he's talking about continental liberalism. So there's been a progressive force that's moving through human society. We've talked about this generationally, like the way that it's moving on the micro scale between the boomers and Gen X, and the way it kind of ping pongs this. It's like playing this ping pong ball back and forth between these generations as it evolves. This is a force that actually has been building steam for a really long time. And what it is essentially a force of deconstructionism. And it's a deconstructionism that achieves a point where it begins to self-replicate. So it self-replicates deconstruction, which means that every single obstacle that it encounters, it uses the presence of that obstacle to surmount the obstacle and make itself stronger. You can think of it in kind of, especially if you've played like video games, or you've encountered this sort of thing if you've played different video games, or been involved in coding programs. Like your mind functions this way naturally. Mine doesn't so much because I didn't spend as much time doing that growing up, but I'm coming back around to it now and almost wanting to go back and experience those things so that I can think in this like game theoretical way. And I think part of the reason why people are starting to notice this force is for this reason. People are starting to get this abstracted meta perspective on happenings, given the way that the internet is accelerating things. So the internet is accelerating this process, but this process existed before the internet. It's like a social contagion, sort of, that functions socially through dialectics. So to pull this out of the abstract a little bit and make this kind of practical. I'm watching this video by Aaron McIntyre and the Prudentialist, where they're talking about this very subject, this tendency of the dialectic process that ultimately is turned into a power game. So an example of this would be was Juneteenth. So you have Juneteenth as a holiday. Once upon a time, Juneteenth was this sort of niche sort of thing. And then these people grabbed Juneteenth and dragged it into the public square. And they said, this is the new frontier of civil activism. Everyone who's a good person who participates in this mainstream discourse, everyone who's a decent person, you need to support Juneteenth. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a conversation about Juneteenth. We're going to bring it out into the public. We're going to all debate it. Everyone's going to give their sides. We have this marketplace of ideas. But this is a performance. The debate about Juneteenth was just a performance. It wasn't actually it didn't actually have any bearing on the outcome. The outcome of the debate had no bearing on the outcome of whether or not Juneteenth was going to be instantiated into our lives. But it was. It was instantiated in our lives, and they had to go through this process. They had to do this LARP. It's a shout out to 2-Bit in here. It's a mimetic process. They go through this mimetic rivalry out in public. They debate between these two things. They create this warfare. They create this conflict and this tension so that they can scapegoat the opposition, and on top of that scapegoating, erect this monument of their political victory. Then they go on to the next thing. And then the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. This is why these two perspectives by the modern right wing that I'm talking about, these perspectives occupying this frame of mind and operating this way feeds into this process. Because in order to have this process, you have to have a foil. You have to have someone to fight against.
Cthulhu is not going to all of a sudden swim right.
Right. Yeah, this is you guys are probably familiar with the mold bug little aphorism that Cthulhu always swims left. This is the force that's leading Cthulhu to always swim left, is this dialectic process that turns, it's like a virus that's building itself anti-fragility as it goes along. So the more that it's attacked, like every time you attack it, you give it the ability to engineer its way around your attack, which makes it more powerful. And it subsumes you into itself so that then you go and you start attacking on its behalf. I want to start a holiday on July 12th called Jaleventy Tooth. I'm not sure we're celebrating yet. Shout out Kyle, based fat Chad. A quote here, a relevant quote from Land is, he says, "Everywhere that there is argument, there is an unresolved opportunity to rule." So this is a spirit. This spirit is born out of, it's not born out of liberalism. It was born through liberalism. Liberalism is one of the vehicles that this spirit used to bring itself into reality. I'm speaking in sort of metaphorical language to, I'm not necessarily attributing, I'm not saying that this spirit is a person that actually has volition and that it's orchestrating this. That's part of the accelerationist, I don't know, milieu. Some of them actually believe that this force is actually like a personal sort of force. It's like an actual entity. And then there's some where you kind of start getting into this sort of Gen X Zoomer irony where it's like, whether it is an actual entity or not doesn't really matter. So we're going to speak about it in kind of Lovecraftian terms to try to, this is such a hard thing for people to think about that if you put it into sort of a narrative, more materialized format, people can think about it better. So he says, the cathedral incarnates these lessons. It has no need to espouse Leninism or operational communist dialectics because it recognizes nothing else. There is one viewpoint. There is one viewpoint that's acceptable, but part of this viewpoint is raising viewpoints against it so it can attack them and subsume them. This is how it expands its power. This force here is the same force that Popular Liberty was looking at when he described archotropism. The way that it's like a network of incentives within a system that the system begins using to propagate itself. Yes, this stuff is. I think one thing we're gonna have to do is start doing a live reading of Nick Land think it's going to have to happen. I don't know how we're going to fit all of this stuff in, but I started reading through some of the stuff today, and it's just like every single sentence, my brain is just firing off. This
I don't imagine there's going to be many people tuning into that stream.
Are you being sarcastic?
No.
Oh, I think there probably would be.
You think so?
I think so, yeah. I think
yeah, you'll have like 30 people sitting around going like, the fuck is going on?
Right. Well, the part of the thing with Nick Land is that nobody wants to read it because nobody can understand it. Because like as you're, I mean, okay, here, I'll just give you an example of this next sentence that I chose not to read precisely for this reason. It says, there is scarcely a fragment of the social superstructure that has escaped dialectical reconstruction through articulate antagonism, polarization, binary structuring, and reversal. Within the academy, the media, even the fine arts, political supersaturation has prevailed, identifying even the most minuscule elements of apprehension with conflictual social critique and egalitarian teleology. Communism is the universal implication. Like, those were words. Each of those words has a meaning. And if I sat and I thought about each word, I could probably understand what it means. Then I need to go and I need to attach all these words to each other and then figure out what they mean attached to each other. And it doesn't help that every single sentence is like 5 phrases long. But Cooper and I were actually debating about this earlier, and we kind of agreed on this point that I think this actually people will critique Nick Land for being like an insufferable guy who likes to sniff his own farts, and maybe he is an insufferable guy who likes to sniff his own farts. I don't know, but his writing style alone doesn't indicate that. This writing style is not inefficient; it's actually hyper efficient. The problem is he's taking very complicated ideas and he's using large obscure words because each of these large obscure words is a mouth sound that relates to a very complex mind picture. But if you have the capacity to string all of these large words together and retain their meaning, then you can actually communicate a shitload of information in a single sentence.
You basically have to go learn a new language.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. But there was one here. It says more dialectics is more politics, and more politics means progress or social migration to the left. The production of public agreement only leads in one direction, and within public disagreement, such impetus already exists in embryo. It is only in the absence of agreement and of publicly articulated disagreement, which is to say, in non-dialectics, non-argument, sub-political diversity, or politically uncoordinated initiative, that the right-wing refuge of the economy and civil society more widely is to be found. In other words, participating in the debate itself is a left-wing activity. The entire premise of this spirit is that it's going to, the political is the personal. This spirit is going to invade absolutely every aspect of life. And every single opportunity for disagreement is an opportunity for gaining power. So every single, it's fundamentally at war with reality. It's at war with reality because every single proposition of reality that it can war with is an opportunity for it to gain power. This is why you have Robert Conquest's third law of politics, which is the one people don't really pay much attention to, which is that let me make sure I get the exact phrasing correct because it'll bother me if I don't. Conquest's laws. If you don't know Robert Conquest's laws, you should, because they make a lot of things make a lot of sense. So law number 1, everyone is conservative about what he knows best. Law number 2, any organization not explicitly and constitutionally right-wing will sooner or later become left-wing. The behavior of any bureaucratic organization, this is law number 3, the behavior of any bureaucratic organization can best be understood by assuming that it is controlled by a secret cabal of its enemies. That's the one that doesn't seem to really resonate with people all that much. But this is where number 3 ties directly into number 2. And you see this all the time. You see a guy who starts a company, and he has his reasons, his motivations for starting this company. But sooner or later, his company gets taken from him by the bureaucracy that he installed under him to run the company for him. There's these tons and tons of examples of this. The reason for this has to do with this spirit that takes the opportunity for debate and turns it into a weapon for wielding political power. Okay, so that is kind of like premise number one. So there's this force. You can see this force present in the political sphere. I think this is pretty obvious and recognizable, probably familiar to a lot of people if you've spent any time around dissident right wing, NRX, any of these sorts of little subcultures for any amount of time. You've encountered these sorts of ideas. Now, okay, let's see some of these comments here. So the king-pilled compound is still viable. Giggity, opt out. Yes, king-pilled compound is definitely still viable. And I'm gonna. There's like a solution to all of this at the end here that we're gonna get into. There's a way that you can counteract all of this. And we have a new member. Welcome to the king-pilled, Jordan Gibb. Thank you, sir. Welcome aboard.
Welcome to the king build.
Yes. It's actually the role. It wanted me to give a name to the role, so I said the name of the role was the king pilled, using king pilled as a noun. So it says now, welcome to the king pilled. It's the king pilled show. All right. Give me some strong emotes. Those of you who are members, give me some strong emotes for Jordan Gibb. Show him your big muscles, your big, manly, strong muscles. Come on, Cooper. Show him your big, strong muscles. Yeah, there we go.
Big, strong muscles, of which Jordan Gibb is one person who is acquiring said muscles.
Indeed. Is that a hint that we should tell people about our business because we're businessmen?
Businessmen.
Actually, we're going to talk about it in a minute because this is actually going to segue perfectly into that. It kind of gives you guys a peek into the why we started the business. All right, so we're going to just kind of hold that whole point in your head for a moment. This dynamic of the Cthulhu swimming left, the Gramscian long march through the institutions is an example of this same process. This steady, disintegrative, degenerative process. Another part of when I first started, we encountered this really weird online subculture that we showed you in the last video called Remelia, and we dug into it a little bit more, like in the couple days after that, and that rabbit hole goes deep. It goes real deep. I spent a long time reading about the Bored Ape Yacht Club and the internal politics behind that, and it's
Kali Yuga, whatever.
Yeah, Yuga Labs and the idea of the Kali Yuga and Kali Yuga accelerationism and the connections to Yarvin to Yarvin and to Teal. There's a lot there. That stuff is just really out of my kin right now to really get into the internal politics of NFT companies and all that sort of thing. It just is. I can't really weigh in there. I just find it interesting, but it made me want to take these ideas more seriously, because now I'm seeing how people who are thinking about these ideas and acting as if these ideas are real are beginning to act in the world in ways that really accentuate these ideas. Because their idea, I said idea so many times, the idea of the accelerationists is that you can't turn out of this process. You can't pull out of this process because it's just continuing. It's just going to continue, in the act of fighting it, as in the political sphere, the act of fighting against the process accelerates the process. So the process is going to spin itself out to whatever it's going to spin itself out to, and we might as well get there sooner rather than later. So just turn into the skid. So I started searching around about accelerationism just kind of to get a rough overview of it beyond the memes and stuff that I typically hear. You know, the guys who think they're going to be warlords and Mad Max, and they're just want to burn everything down. Like yeah, those people are out there because there are idiots who encounter ideas and don't understand them and do their own thing with them. But that doesn't characterize the actual school of thought that is accelerationism. So one of the first ways that I started reading about it was this idea of the rise of industrialization, paired with or immediately following. The rise of industrialization that immediately preceded a rise of commercialization. So you get these two forces arising together, and as these forces begin building, people start companies to industrialize. You iterate enough times, the companies get bigger and bigger. They form into particular conglomerates. Those conglomerates begin developing automation technology. The automation technology rapidly expands their ability to industrialize. Then they begin creating automated technology to automate the automation of their industrialization. So now you have the forces of automation automating the forces of automation. So this then begins to accelerate the process of the expansion of industrialization, which is something like the forces of productivity. On the flip side, you have commercialization. As the technology of commercialization builds and scales, pretty soon you begin to automate the process of commercialization. And then you get to automate the process of automating the process of commercialization. So now you have these dual forces that are both looking back in on each other and creating these exponential growth cycles with each other, and they match each other up. Where the industrialization growth cycle is moving in the direction of like infinite growth, while the commercialization, this would be like the supply side, the commercialization would be like the demand side, where you're exponentially automating the ability to generate demand. And you pair these two automation processes together, and you get a system that is perpetually automating its ability to automate the process of production while also doing the same thing for consumption. And the upshot of this, at least theoretically, is that it reaches this singularity point. It reaches there's like this event horizon of doom, basically, where the nature of this is like by the time you start talking about it, that means that it's progressed through its life cycle to the point where it's already beyond the point where you can pull it back. That's the theory. Kind of like by the time you're having the conversation about whether or not Juneteenth should be a federal holiday, the time to have the conversation is over. There's no point. The act of having the conversation is the recognition that you've submitted, that you've lost.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any thoughts or questions or critiques or accusations or anything thus far?
No, I think right now you're just kind of laying out the framework, and I'm following along. I anticipate that I'll have some disagreements as you continue to flesh this out, because I'm not. The whole worldview is fundamentally deterministic, and for that, you can't sell me on it. There's aspects of it where it's like, oh, okay, that's an interesting idea, or maybe, okay, these things you're recognizing some things that are actually going on, but the idea that we're going to reach some singularity, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. This is a good segue into the next part of it. So
you have to define what they mean or what that singularity looks like, and I'm sure everybody has different ideas about what that is.
Right.
Is the singularity like Skynet? is the singularity, because I can see a whole bunch of potential disruptions to this process that would break it apart. Are those disruptions? Are those the singularity? I guess that's
like, give an example of what you're meaning. What sort of disruption?
So, for example, like, I don't think this will ever happen, but just an example is, okay, what happens when you reach the point where, like, you run out of resources for for production?
Mm-hmm.
What if everything's so automated and like hyper fast and you run out of the resources for production? Is that the singularity? Because if you can't produce anymore, everything falls apart. And it seems to me that this acceleration is taking place after a fashion, but it's only taking place in a particular small sliver of space, that being like the internet, things of that sort. Technology is a much broader category than just what's happening in bit space. And maybe there's this acceleration or this exponential growth that's occurring in this bit space, but I live in Michigan and the roads are shit. The infrastructure's falling apart. There's no innovation happening there. And this will dovetail well into our discussion about the silent majority. Because, well, I guess I'll tease you. The innovation and the exponential, acceleration of technology in the bit space at the expense of meat space, this occurred at a particular time. And you can kind of see it as like society turning inwards, and rather than like exponentially or innovating in meat space and going to space, if that's even real, going to the moon or whatever, which didn't happen. So maybe actually going to the moon. I could see maybe like the accelerationists would have a better argument if that were the case, that like in meat space, real technology was advancing at an accelerated rate, but it's not. It kind of came to a crawl, and we've just been coasting on this like slowly degrading infrastructure, and you just kind of look around everywhere and it's blight. Yeah, so I see that the fact that infrastructure is falling apart, for example, as something that could kneecap this process of reaching the singularity, whatever that is.
Okay, so let's see.
Unless that's what they mean is the singularity, that everything.
Right. So I think that there is. I think that they would have an answer for what you're saying. So I'm going to describe what I think is what their answer would be, which I don't necessarily think is a bad answer, even though ultimately I agree with you. So ultimately I agree with you, but I'm going to play devil's advocate to your answer there. And I want to make clear that I'm not endorsing the accelerationist prescription, because I don't know what the accelerationist prescription is. And I'm also not endorsing the entirety of the accelerationist description, because fundamentally I have a different anthropology than the accelerationists do. And my anthropology doesn't allow for the sort of outcome they're describing when if they talk about things like Nick Land said, nothing human will survive the present age, or something like that.
They're bots talking to each other on 4chan.
Right.
Well, the rest of the world is just dystopia.
Right. So the idea here is that you have, by automating industrialization and automating commercialization, you create a class of perpetual consumers, which is obviously clearly what's already happening. Even normies complain about commercialism and the excessive, over the top role that it has, while still participating in it. That shows you in part how powerful this force is. That the act of fighting, like the way people fight against commercialism, is by commercialist means. And this is an illustration of this spirit of capital that Nick Land is talking about.
Yeah, Wally.
Wally. Yeah. That's a perfect example. So you have this this spirit of commercialism that's creating like a permanent class of consumers. And the idea, like in the accelerationist mind, essentially, is this process begins to exponentiate itself, where you get automation that's automating itself, and then it produces automation to automate its own automation, and produces automation to automate its own and this process is going to hockey stick like crazy.
Right. Okay, you get a positive feedback loop. This is kind of like the Kurzweil kind of idea.
Right.
That's something I'm also really dubious of.
Right. Okay. So the idea that what they think is going to happen essentially is that you get an entire class of where all human beings are just consumers, where humanity stops being productive. And at that point, humanity dies. This, I think, is one of the terminations of their extrapolative fantasies. And this is what I mean by us having a fundamentally different anthropology. And if I could, I'll try to illustrate this by a couple of fundamental premises here. So if you have fundamental premise number one, which is what I believe, that creation is inherent to human nature. Creation that is expressed as, you could think of creativity or production. It's the introduction of additional value to the world. This is something that's inherent to human beings, that's part of being made in the image of God. This is what being made in the image of God is.
I'll also add that in addition to a different anthropology, there's a different eschatology probably as well.
Yeah, and that eschatology is derived from the anthropology, I think.
Right.
So premise number one is that humans are fundamentally creative. So, which would mean if you have a category of, if you have all humans are now out of the category of creative, you don't have humans. These are no longer humans if they aren't creative. Fundamentally, premise number two would be that time is a function of human experience. So what this means then, if you take the two first fundamental premises, it would follow then that there is no time at which all of humanity will be reduced to the class of consumer only, where you eliminate this creative, productive capacity that human beings have. And I think this is where we're kind of jumping around here, but bear with me. This is where Orthodox theology, especially Orthodox anthropology, and the Orthodox doctrine of the Trinity are so fundamental. Because if God is a human being, if the Logos, the fundamental ordering principle of the universe, is human, then it's not possible for some other spirit to destroy humanity, because humanity is eternally wed to divinity.
Where's Jonathan Hemingway?
Oh yeah, because Trinity stuff. Yeah. So in answer to your the thing you proposed, that the collapsing infrastructure, this is where the idea of like the COOM pods comes in. So this is a reference back to our title that the silent majority is COOMING. The silent majority is not coming. The silent majority already came. The silent majority is actively in the process of coming. They're not coming to save you. They're coming to save themselves. The COOM pods are like the get in the pod and eat the bugs. This would be the ultimate end of the Klaus Schwabs of the world.
Well, and this is my kind of, to flesh out the theory a little bit more about why there isn't any innovation in meat space going on, or any kind of exponential technological advancement, is because with the advent of the internet, the quote silent majority began to step into the pod.
Right.
So they're already there.
Right. And I would even argue that this is a force that did not begin with the so-called founding of capitalism. It found its expression in that, but this dynamic that the accelerationists are calling capitalism, this perpetual degenerative force, this like entropic disintegration of everything, it's actually a very ancient force. This is something that's been persisting for a long time. It's called sin. And this is the way that it manifests itself in the world, in this degenerative, disintegrative form. It's self-perpetuating. It's like a fake form of creation. It's an inversion of creation. And the way to war against it, I think what they would say to you with your the infrastructure, whatever, is they say, well, the infrastructure doesn't matter if everybody lives in a coom pod.
Well, it does when the power goes out and there's nothing powering your coom pod.
Right. Well, so then this comes in stages where the infrastructure doesn't matter if it's one guy who's driving his little truck out to go fix the thing. And that's funny. Jonathan Hemingway says, I literally tuned in 2 minutes ago and I hear immediately. So this is how it relates to the Trinity. Oh, that's perfect. The first time we've talked about it in months, and he tunes in just in time to hear it.
He must have caught my bat signal or something.
Uh-huh.
His Spidey's picking up on the fact that I said his name.
Yeah. So to play devil's advocate with your thing, they would say, the actual infrastructure doesn't matter in the same way. It's not as important because the entire premise of this is that there's these forces that are just going to be driving people more and more into the coom pods. So you get fewer and fewer people using the infrastructure. So the infrastructure is easier and easier to maintain when there's just a few people who are using it. And eventually then you automate the people that are using the infrastructure. So you just continue automating through this process. And I don't think that they're necessarily wrong on those terms. I think their wrongness is elsewhere. I think ultimately you make a good point about how, like, what is the termination point of this process? Is it actually achieving the singularity, like in mathematical terms or something?
Is it all humans dying? Like, what is
right,
it?
Yeah. Is it reaches a point where it just exterminates humanity? Because like part of what happens here is that you get computers who start making decisions for humans. So humans offload the decision-making process to the computer. That's what an automation is. You offload that decision-making process. You program in a particular decision-making process. But then once you start getting computers that can reprogram the decision-making process and they can update it in real time, and then they begin acting on each other, then pretty soon the computers are making decisions faster than human beings can keep up.
That's the thing.
Is the consequence of this going to be it results in like essentially like a gigantic globe-sized EMP that just kind of nukes everything and returns us back to the Stone Age? Is that an example of the singularity?
Well, and I'm dubious about that claim as well, that computers are going to get better and better and automate like the decision-making process and then iterate on this and get better and better, because like computers are kind of stupid. Computers don't do anything without being told what to do. So it seems to me like, okay, you got a set, and to justify a set, you need something from outside of the set to justify that set.
Mm-hmm.
Applying that here,
right?
You're going to need something external from the computer. And I guess, okay, theoretically, you could have like, I don't know, some like cocktail club or something. Some people way up at the top, and those are the few people who make all the decisions or plug into the computers or whatever. But I don't know.
Well, this actually gets to the call to action here, or what do you do with all of this? How do you start incorporating this? And I think that the debate lies in how far this phenomenon is going to persist. To what extent is it going to go? Not does it exist. I think the phenomenon very clearly exists. And this idea of when you apply automation to innovation, like we're witnessing this acceleration happen already. We're watching the extremely rapid transformation of social structures and technological structures in real time. They're going to run up against a limit. We don't know what that limit is. Is that limit the complete destruction of humanity? Is that limit nuking Earth? Or is that limit I don't know, something that would be bad but not like, generationally earth-shattering? I don't know. But it is, what I do know is that this process playing out is going to be really bad for a lot of people. You don't have to get the singularity for it to be a really big fucking deal for an individual person's life. If you're not aware of this process happening, you're not aware of the exponential rate of change that is coming, then you're not going to be positioned well to adapt to it and work with it. Because that's going to be the challenge. That's going to be the struggle, is that the change accelerates so much that human beings literally can't change fast enough to keep up with it. It's this radical destabilizing, decentralizing, distributive force that's just, it's disintegrating everyone. There's a reason why this is tied in with individualism and this idea of the atomized individual. Because what you're basically doing is you're taking computer programs and setting them at the goal of atomizing humanity. If that's the case, and if it's true that warring against it accelerates it, then the only thing to me that seems evident as a course of action forward is if this system, this spirit, whatever you want to call it, is evolving the productive capacity out of human beings, the way you war against it, quote unquote, is by being productive, by retaining that productive capacity, by not ceding your children to the Borg, by having children in the first place, and by being productive and creative even within this spirit. Go ahead.
Just adding on to a point a minute ago, like, I think there's a lot more, maybe you could call them fail safes to this process. Like with the other day when we were talking about, there's that guy who's working on a server somewhere in Nebraska. He's the only guy who knows how to do this one thing, and he's been doing his job for 35 years, and there's no one else who knows how to do it. And then one day he's going to get hit by a bus, and then no one's going to know what to do.
Uh-huh.
There's theoretically thousands of people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's like a big black swan. Like, okay, you've got this potential like singularity thing we're moving towards. But what happens when the guy in Nebraska working on the server gets hit by a bus, and no one knows how to fix that?
Are you saying that we don't need to worry about the singularity because everything's going to fucking explode before we get there?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, basically.
Well, so
what I'm saying is that the singularity. Is that what they're talking about? But all I'm saying is that there's potentially, I don't know, an infinite number of variables or things like that could happen, in which people, whether they want to or not, if everything crashes, you're going to be forced to be a producer or you're going to die.
Right.
So yeah, to your point, before we get to the point where it's like you're forced to be a producer or you're going to die, why don't you jump on the bandwagon ahead of time?
Right. Yeah. So like, I guess the takeaway here is, there's this passivity among the I don't know, you could call it Christian right-wing milieu, whatever this sort of Christian right-wing milieu, that we all sort of talk to each other through these various social media platforms, and the you know, the internet is sort of being flattened, where everything's starting to all kind of merge together, which is another manifestation of this process. And there's kind of this passivity in here, and it seems to take two forms. One form is like, everything's going to be fine. You don't have to worry about it. Everything's going to be all right. The other form is, we need to fight all of these bad things. These are the two examples that I gave in the tweet I posted for this show and the one I read a little bit ago. Both of those forms of passivity are going to be fatal. If you're just sitting around just trusting, oh yeah, everything's going to work itself out. It's all going to be good. I don't got to do anything. Yeah, it'll be fine. I mean, there may be a way to do that in like the monastic sense. Like you're just going to move out in the woods. Yeah, it'll all be good. Let civilization collapse in on itself.
Uncle Ted.
Yeah. That perfectly valid. If that's your calling, if that's the direction you're headed, I'm not talking to you. More power to you. I hope to join you one day. If you're the other group that's like, or you know someone who's in that other group and you can direct them, those people who are just like, yeah, it's all gonna be fine. People will only accept so much craziness before eventually they rise up and just put their foot down, and you're gonna get the average American who just does, no. The average American has already been turned into a consumer. They've been consumed. They're already in the coom pod. The silent majority isn't out there. The silent majority isn't going to rise up. It's not like you just need to come up with the right political ideology, put the right propositions in the right order, and it's just like all of a sudden like, it's just going to start glowing, and you're going to have like the ring of power that everybody's going to congeal around, and you're going to save the day. That's not coming. There are processes in motion that have been in motion for centuries, millennia even, that have been building into this process. And I don't know if the end of the world is coming next week. Maybe it will. Maybe all the accelerationists are right, and there's going to be some sort of tipping point where everything goes whoop and just hockey sticks up indefinitely, and it causes everything on the earth to all blow up simultaneously. And there we go, end of the world. All right, game reset. Like, you're gonna have bigger problems. You're probably gonna have fewer problems in that case. Hopefully,
you have a few really big problems.
Right? Yeah.
Slowboy says he won't get hit by a bus. He'll be fired after they give him 2 weeks to train his replacement of color.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. It's almost like there's this system that's actively working to like, it's actively incentivizing retarded decisions that undermine and destroy each of these systems. The destructionism or the deconstructionism is not a bug in the system, it's a feature of the system. This is liberalism ported into the tech space, ported into the internet. Liberalism is the inheritor of further traditions back. Maybe that's a show for another day. I was speculating about the spirit of Cain in relation to this last night, if you want to have an idea of kind of where my mind is on that. But yeah, there's no like, oh, we're just gonna eventually hit a point of so much craziness that everybody's just tired of craziness, and we're just gonna elect the right guy, and that guy is just gonna fix everything and set it back to normal, and then we can dust off our hands and go to our soccer matches or baseball games, or just kind of get back to normal life. That normal life exists already. You can begin participating in it.
You just got to get out of the pod.
Yes, you have to get yourself out of the pod, because what is the defining feature of the pod? Isolation, atomization, disconnection. The answer to this, whatever the accelerationist boogeyman is, And I think that a lot of them are describing things that I would very much consider boogeymen. I think a lot of them are describing something that is likely, some variant of something that they're describing is likely to come to pass. But I don't think that's going to be the end of the world. I think the world is going to continue beyond that point. Because I think that every generation faces down its boogeymen. It's just that the boogeymen are, I don't know, they're coming faster and faster, and they're getting more and more complex. The boogeymen may be getting more and more complex, but the answers are the same. The answers are establishing relationships with other human beings and working productively to build value out of those relationships.
You know, my patron saint, Saint Anthony, has a quote where he says something along the lines of, "We are saved by our relationships," which is really interesting because this is coming from a guy who lived alone in the desert for decades and decades and decades. But it's true.
You know, it's interesting if you thinking about a system or an institution that's anti-fragile, because that's what we're describing. This sort of institution has this sort of like embedded anti-fragility feature. The more you attack it, the stronger that it gets. There's another system that functions that way. Another institution. That institution's called the church. The more the church is persecuted, the more it grows. So what happens when you have the I don't know, the I was going to do like an unstoppable, an immovable object and the unstoppable force. What happens when they run into each other? So you have like this spirit of capital that that the accelerationists are describing is like this unstoppable force. Then you have the church as the immovable object. I might call it like the uncrushable object or something. It just so happens this church is the body of Christ. And this spirit of capital is actively working to depersonalize the world. That's what this atomization effect, this radical deconstruction, this disintegrate everything is a depersonalization force, because personalization and relationship are bound up inextricably. Being a person defines you as someone in relationship to someone else. You can't separate these ideas from each other. So this attempt to atomize humanity, reduce humanity to a collection of individuals, which the fucking libertarians straight up root for, absolute morons. They straight up root for it. The answer to that is not to fight them on it. This is what I've learned. Don't fight them on those terms. Present them better terms. The better terms are to become a person, to become your true self, or to obtain the ideal reality for yourself, whatever hokey new age terms you want to use, is to participate in the life of the church and to participate in the fundamental unit of society, which is the family. Spending time with your family, building value with your family, preserving and protecting your family. Or if you don't have a family, finding a family. Your creative, productive, relational capacity, these are all part of the same thing. If you're going to produce something, you're going to produce something with someone else. You don't produce something in isolation. You create something for other people to appreciate, for other people to experience. You build something of value that solves problems for someone else. This is how you maintain the status of producer, even when the forces of capital are trying to deconstruct production, to depersonalize production, and turn it into the territory of machines. If that happened, that would be the end of humanity. Fortunately, it's technically impossible for that to happen.
Yeah.
Because the Logos, the second person of the Trinity, the Word of God, is a person, is a human being. That human being can't be subverted by a machine. This is just the Tower of Babel. This is the spirit. I guess I'll just say it. This is the spirit of the Tower of Babel manifesting itself in a new form. It's the empire, the spirit of empire progressing from Babel, which was like the apotheosis of the spirit of Cain that was sent packing. And then it keeps manifesting itself. It keeps rehabilitating itself over and over and over again, creating new evolutions of itself. What we're seeing now, this force of capital that the accelerationists are identifying, this sort of Lovecraftian horror that they're identifying, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes when they're looking at it. Like, are they worshiping it or are they afraid of it? Or both? It seems like it's very much both. This spirit of capital, it's a very real spirit. It's a very real thing that is acting, inducing people to act on its behalf. But it's a hollow spirit. It doesn't actually have a life of its own. It has to act through people. So you can reject that spirit and you can be inhabited by a different spirit. And if you're inhabited by the Spirit of God, then what it means is you're going to act in the world relationally, sacrificially, self-sacrificially. Instead of trying to preserve yourself, you're going to give of yourself to others. Make things, produce things of value, which starts with your relationships with other people.
I didn't want to interrupt you because you were on a roll.
Go ahead.
But another point of divergence between the accelerationist crowd, as I understand them, granted I'm a bit of a neophyte here, is they seem to look at this spirit of capital as being like egregorian.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there is such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think maybe calling it like demonic, that would be much more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's just an aside.
Real quick, Marshall Forward in the chat, $4.99 super chat. He said, "Sup, Matt and Coop, everyone like the stream." Yes, please, everyone do like the stream. Appreciate you, Marshall. Yeah, it's interesting. I was very fascinated by the idea of egregores, and I still do find them fascinating. But they were kind of recontextualized for me once I began taking on the proper orthodox anthropology. That an egregore, you can't have a personal. Well, I guess an egregore isn't by definition personal, but
like a zombie.
Yeah, it's kind of like a zombie spirit. And I just got a text message about work. What were we talking about? Egregore, zombie spirit. The thing that's described as an egregore is what these people would be describing capital as. And but the idea is that it's an actual entity. And I think that there's a differentiation here between it's like a nexus of incentives playing themselves out versus an actual entity itself. Does that make sense?
It's like it's kind of like esoteric groupthink, basically. But the idea being that incentives amongst a group are aligned in such a way that the group it's kind of like an emergent spirit that arises out of a group and begins to animate it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't believe in kind of emergent spirits.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's
Mhm.
there's always got to be kind of a principle
Right, right.
from the top down. That's the
Mhm.
way these things work. Now, it's very much true that groups of people can give themselves over to a malevolent spirit.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that's the direction.
Right. It's kind of like the thing we were talking about in the last stream about you can have a conspiracy. You can have the appearance of a conspiracy even without there being an actual conspiracy. And these sorts of things are this sort
More
of
of
thing is
Gollum
hard to
than a
talk
zombie.
about. Yeah,
Says
yeah, more of
Slughorn.
yeah. These things are hard to talk about because they're like by definition they're super abstract. So you have to kind of like try to drag them out of abstraction and put them on the table in front of you to look at and talk about. This is where you get the mouth sound mind picture thing. So you have to create a mouth sound that captures this picture, but then those mouth sounds will get associated with something else. And you're like, well, no, I don't want it to mean that. I want it to mean this thing that's different. So you have like you have like a spirit of the age. The spirit of the age is a spirit, but it's not like that spirit has a birthday and a name and like is it's not like you can sit down and have a conversation with that spirit. You can have a conversation with spirits who influence the spirit of the age. They're using spirit in kind of two different ways. Where you have a conversation with a demon. A
I don't
demon can also
recommend
be called a
having
spirit. Yeah.
conversations with spirits.
Yeah, very, very strongly recommend against that. But then you have a spirit of the age, which is kind of like a what'd you call it? It's like
Like the character.
yeah, like the collective personality of an age that is an accumulation of decision points by the individuals within that age. You kind of accumulate all of those decision points and you can fashion a personality sort of, but that personality isn't alive. That personality isn't a person, even though it can move and act like one. It's ultimately hollow. It's a zombie person or a golem. It's called Pentecostalism, sweetie.
Mm-hmm. I know that world. Well, I don't know if that world would be characterized by like egregores. There's certainly a lot of spirits.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think I covered just about everything that I had in mind.
One way you can go about being productive is give
Mm-hmm.
them the pitch, Matthew.
Okay.
This whole episode was just one long pitch.
Yeah. This whole episode was just just laying the groundwork for a sales pitch for you. We're just dirty capitalists. We're using capitalism to sell capitalism. No, like in a really practical way. This is what struck me when I started thinking about this the other day. That isn't it fascinating that it's considered legitimate health advice to tell people to go for a walk once a day. Imagine, I don't know, a generation or two ago, if people would have seen that it's like normal health advice. Hey, you should go for a walk occasionally. Like you should step outside once in a while. It would have been absurd. But our lives have changed so much in the direction of this degeneration of this age that now it's considered legitimate health advice to remind you to walk outside and get fresh air occasionally. So one of the ways that you can actually war against this spirit of degeneration, something that's far more effective and productive than arguing online about politics, is
Or theology.
or theology. Yeah. Politics or theology. Just don't get into debates. You don't need
We
to.
dipped our
It's just
we dipped our toes into that once, and it was a horrible
Yeah,
experience, and I never want to do it again.
right. Yeah. I don't feel like going back. That was a
Arguing
little
with
bit
bald
was enough.
Unitarians. or whatever that guy was.
Blue Tim Pool. Dr. Crispy Rothschild said, "I'm just here for the ape noises." You only get those occasionally. Those are going to be a special treat. You can have them once in a while as a treat.
You can go back and listen to the last episode as many times as you want.
Yeah, and I highly recommend chimping out occasionally. Like it's legitimately like speaking of going out and going for a walk, sometimes just chimping out, just wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just start chimping. And
the grocery store, at the library, at church.
It's going to give you a rush of adrenaline. You're going to it's like you get a lot of breathing going. You kind of work up a little. You kind of get You get into that virility and just. Special treat chimp day. Is chimp out the correct nomenclature? Yes. We are the ones who coined that. Nobody had ever used that term before we did. We conceived of that term to describe the thing that we did in that episode. All right, you guys, stop interrupting me as I'm trying to sell stuff to you. We, in a very real sense, I know a lot of people are. There's a pandemic of extremely online bodies, and correspondent to that is this feeling of kind of like stagnation. Anywhere from like stagnation to despair, just kind of feeling pointless, not really know what you're doing. You're just kind of treading water. You're sort of waiting around for something to happen, but you're not totally sure if something's going to happen. And your life is passing you by. Particularly if you're a young man, if you're somewhere 25 or over, this is the type of guy we want to talk to, is if you're a Christian father who's over 25, because chances are you're going to be experiencing this feeling. You're starting to get that sense of, I'm getting a little bit older. I'm starting to feel, I'm starting to realize that I'm actually on a hill. I'm not over the hill yet, but now I realize that I'm on one. Responsibilities are beginning to mount. And this is genuinely a pretty chaotic, for most people, this is a pretty chaotic, stressful time to be alive. You feel like you're fighting the forces of evil constantly, and it can really get you down. A big part of this is the way that you've been conditioned to take care of your body, or not been conditioned at all. You haven't been trained to take care of your body in the right way. And when you stop taking care of your body in the right way, you begin experiencing all of the symptoms that the spirit of the age is already trying to make you feel. Feelings of despair, hopelessness, low energy, lack of motivation, maybe low libido. That's a difficult one to talk about. Nobody wants to talk about that. You know, just you can't get it up. You don't feel like getting it up. You just don't have the joie de vivre. This is something that plagues young men our age in the 25 to 35, 40, 45 category. We haven't, from an early age, we haven't been taught and trained how to take care of our bodies, from nutrition to fitness. We created a program precisely for this reason, because we were feeling this way. We were feeling this way ourselves. And Cooper happens to have autism. As part of his autism, he introduced me to he introduced me to Mike Mentzer. Mike Mentzer's theory of high intensity training. The approach that he used to build muscle. It's the most efficient means of building muscle possible. It takes less than 30 minutes a week. When you use this technique of high intensity training, you will build muscle. You will get stronger. As you get stronger, you will start feeling better. You will improve your testosterone levels. You'll improve your general satisfaction with life. You'll have more energy. You'll sleep better. You'll recover better. However, if you try to build muscle the wrong way, you'll just be working against yourself. Overtraining is very easy if you don't know what you're doing. And you'll feel it when you overtrain, but you won't know it if you don't know what you're looking for. As he was describing this to me, I was like, this is the thing that the men our age need to know about. They don't need to be sitting around fucking about with obscure philosophy as we finish a podcast on obscure philosophy. Like, they need to be like embedding their bodies into their work. There's so much theory selling going on, and there's a place for theory selling. There's a place for online activism, all this sort of thing. You can do this stuff in the right order. But the first thing you need to do is get your shit in order, which starts with your own body. If you can't get your own body in order, if you're fighting with with greed or sloth or these various passions that weigh you down, you don't have any discipline, you don't like the way that you look, you're embarrassed, you don't want to take your shirt off in public because you're afraid people are going to laugh at you for being a twink or being a slob, one of the two. These are all things that are undermining the experience of being a man in the modern world, and they don't need to. These are very, very, very easy things. I don't say they're easy. These are very simple things to solve. You've just been conditioned to think that they aren't. So we started a program where we will guide you through this process. If you don't have a gym accessible to you, you don't have any equipment, that's fine. We can work with it. We can work with you from the very entry level to someone who's working out regularly. We've got people in the chat right now who are going or have gone through our program, and every single one of them has raved about it to us. It's been better even than we expected it to be. We expected, hey, our proposition here is you're going to have you get to work out less than 30 minutes a week, but you're going to get maybe 40. Yeah. But you're going to get gains that are like say if I said you could work out for 10% of the time investment and get 50% of the gains, that's a pretty good value proposition, right? But what we found is that it's far more than that. We've got people who are working out for less than 30, 40 minutes a week, and they're still building and growing muscle at a rate that shocked us.
Comparable,
their numbers are
better.
Yes.
Than like your traditional training approach of going 3 to 5 times a week for an hour.
Mm-hmm. And as you begin to do this regularly, you'll experience the benefits socially with increased confidence, more confidence in your own body, and just more confidence in yourself. I think that's kind of the gist of it. Do you have anything you want to add?
Well, apparently we're buffering. I'm getting a lot of F's in the chat.
No. Let's check the stream quality over here. Stream health. Stream health is excellent. Stream settings.
Are they memeing? They messing with us?
I don't know. It looks like everything is okay. Let me refresh the page and see. You guys still there with us? Oh, they say we're back. Okay.
We're back.
Excellent. All right. Thank you guys.
I missed the last 1 minute. Well,
oh, that was the best part. How did? Oh,
did it save or is
it anything about it?
Is it lost or is it saved? Go back and watch it. I don't know.
Let's
buy our program. Give us money.
Yeah, yeah.
You're saying you gotta be a man. Get some muscle.
Yeah, yeah. If you're a man, especially if you're a father or if you want to be a father, you have an obligation to build muscle. This is an integral part of being a man. You need to build muscle and teach your child how to build muscle, because this is what I said, that this whole thing we've been talking about, this deconstructionary force that's tearing through society, is one of the best ways to combat that is going to be through incarnational rituals in reality. You need a ritual of picking up heavy shit. If you pick up heavy shit, that's going to ground you in the world. That's going to stimulate the productive, creative aspects of your mind. And you need to train your son to do that as well. Because the vast majority of their generation is not going to learn this shit. The vast majority of their generation are going to be coomers. They're going to live in the coom pods. That's over and done. The silent majority is already cooming. Their children are going to be cooming too. So you need to make sure your children are not. This is why we started Third Position Nutrition, was precisely to connect with the people and give the people who are suffering, the young men who are suffering from these afflictions and to give them an outlet. If you don't know where to start grounding yourself in reality, living an incarnational life, and being productive and creative, start on yourself. Start on your own body. Brody says, no child wants a weak dad or a slobby dad. That's right. Your child deserves to grow up without a weak, slobby dad. So start on your own body. Invest in your own self. This is an adaptation of the Jordan Peterson clean your room, except we're not also going to get addicted to benzos and go into a coma and then start hawking narratives for shekels. You got to clean your room. So you got to start with your own body. Once you start taking care of your own body, the next stages are going to become really clear. That gives you a foundation you can build on. Jordan Gibbs says sons with an S. You better not stop at one. The man knows. How many do you have, Jordan? You have 4 or 5? I think he has 4 kids. 4. I think he has 4 sons. So if this is something you're interested in, if you would like to Tobias, when King Pilled interview with Netanyahu. If Netanyahu wanted to do an interview with me, you better, you know damn well I'm going to take that interview. I'm going to put that, you know the number of eyeballs that we get because of that? Give me them shekels.
Yeah, we'll sell out in a heartbeat. You think we have principles? You're wrong. If I can get money to go build my compound, oh, dude, I'll sell out in a second.
Cooper's like, fuck all y'all, I'm out.
Then I don't have to babysit everybody in this workout program.
Yeah, so if you want to join our program, you will actually get to work with Cooper one-on-one. He is going to, holy crap, Jordan Gibb, the man, has 5 sons. What an absolute man. This is the man you should be looking up to. I don't know why you guys are talking to me. You should talk to Jordan. So if you guys are interested, you want to join the program, then I don't know, what's the best call to action here? Thirdpositionnutrition.com will actually, you can go to thirdpositionnutrition.com and book a call. There should also be a link in the description of this video. There's either a link or I think I might have my email address in there, matt@hyperboreanlodge.com. You can just shoot me an email. The way the program works is you book your initial consultation call with me. That's when the coaching process starts. We're very serious about, we very much believe in the effectiveness of our program, that it is it's been proven. We've got documentation proving how good it is.
If I'll be a little honest, I wasn't 100% confident in the effectiveness of the program at first. Even I'm like, whoa, this is working really well.
Right. So because we believe in the program, we want to help you. We want you guys to be able to benefit from this, those of you who need it. So book a call with me. We'll get the consultation process off the ground, and we'll start helping you make better decisions, starting with not wasting time and energy, not building muscle the optimal way. We also have a nutritional aspect to it as well, which can help a lot with, if you have GI issues or you have difficulty putting on weight or difficulty losing weight. We've got a pretty unique approach with that as well. That's also very also works very well. So we'd love to have you as part of the program, and we're still working on. We've had some technical difficulties. We're working on developing a new. Kind of a reimagined supporting listeners group. We'll have more details for you soon. But for the time being, if you want to get in now so that when we roll it out, you get automatically grandfathered into the highest tier with all the privileges and all the goodies and everything, then I'd recommend joining right now. You can join the lowest tier, $10 a month, and that gets you everything. And the price is going up. So subscribestar.com/kingpill. That'll get you in the supporting listeners group. We do lots of great voice chats in there on the Discord. And I think that's all the shilling that I have got in me today. I've got to go to a work event here this evening. So I think I'm going to let you people go.
Go read some poetry.
You have anything else to add, Cooper?